Good morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to your economics class. So students, in our last class we discussed about the agricultural sector, isn't it? So today we are going to discuss about the industrial sector. But before starting with our today's class, let us revise what we did in our last class. So in the last class, we basically discussed about the various agricultural reforms which were introduced during this particular period, 1950 to 1990. Land reforms were introduced, then land ceilings were imposed, then the process of green revolution was also adopted, the modern farming methods were used, HYV seeds, chemical fertilizers, then pesticides, threshers, tractors, harvesters, etc. And then we analyzed about the positive and the negative impact of green revolution. We also discussed about one debate on subsidies, whether or not subsidies should be provided in the agricultural sector. We analyzed both the points which are in favor of giving subsidies as well as the points which are against giving subsidies to the agricultural sector. And students, towards the end we also discussed how price acts as a signal in indicating about the availability of goods and services in the market, and how subsidies prevent price from acting as a signal, because when subsidy is given, people do not get the idea about the actual price, and as a result they go on to overuse the resources. So subsidies leads to the wasteful use of resources. So students, this was what we discussed in our last class. So today let us discuss about the industrial sector. Well students, our today's class learning objectives are: number 1, to understand about the industrial sector in details, to understand about the various reforms introduced in the industrial sector, also to understand about the positive and negative impacts of the various reforms or of the various policies which were introduced. Students, we all know that a good industrial base serves as the backbone of an economy. Industrial sector makes a significant contribution to the growth of the nation. It is the industrial sector which contributes a significant proportion to the GDP of the country. It generates employment in the country, it promotes urbanization, it promotes modernization, it leads to an overall increase in the productive capacity of the country. So students, at the time of independence, the government, after emphasizing on the agricultural sector, their next emphasis or their next focus was on the industrial sector. But students, at that time the industrialists did not have enough capital to invest, and even when they had, they were afraid to invest because the market at that time was very small. So they were afraid having to incur losses, so they were not coming forward, they were not taking the initiative to invest in the industrial sector. So students, what happened in such a situation, keeping in mind the socialistic pattern of an economy, as I have already told you that Jawaharlal Nehru preferred socialistic form of economy more than capitalist form of economy. So keeping in line with this socialistic point of view, the government or the state decided to play an extensive role in promoting the industrial sector. That means the private sector only played a supporting role. The private sector supported the government in whatever it did, but the main role was played by the government sector or by the public sector. And students, in the second 5-year plan, which was introduced in the year 1956 and it continued up to 1961, so in the second 5-year plan, greater emphasis was given on the development of industries, okay, and the policies of the private sector were just complementary to the public sector, and the state was actually leading the way. So students, industrial policy resolution was adopted in the year 1956. So under this policy resolution, industries were divided into 3 categories. The first category consisted of the most important industries, the industries which were of national interest. For example, air transport, atomic energy, then iron and steel, railways, etc. And since students, these industries were of national interest, these industries were reserved exclusively for the government or for the public sector. That means it was the sole responsibility of the government to provide these industries. Then students, the second category included the lesser important industries which were jointly provided by both the government and the private sector. And these included industries like the fertilizer industries, road transport industries, shipping industries, etc. So students, the second category of industry was supposed to be provided by both the public and the private sector. Then students, all the remaining industries were included in the third category. They were considered as the least important industries. Cosmetics, detergents, cold drinks, beverages, all these came under this third category, and they were reserved for the private sector. Since they were of least importance, the private sector was entrusted with the responsibility of providing these industrial services. Alright. And students, this industrial policy resolution, it formed the base of the second 5-year plan. Okay, the second 5-year plan was continued, keeping in mind this categorization of industries. So students, the private sector's role was very much limited. Whatever the private sector did related to industries, it was required to obtain license, it was required to obtain a permission from the government. So the private sector was required to obtain a license from the government for, number one, establishing a new industry. That means if they wanted to establish a new industry, they were required to obtain a license. If they wanted to expand their existing industry, then also license was required. If they wanted to diversify the products which were produced, that means if they wanted to produce slightly different products, then also license was required. If they wanted to launch a new product in their industry, then also license was required. And if they wanted to adopt a new technology in their production activity, then also license was required. Okay, so students, this licensing policy was basically introduced for two reasons. One, in order to achieve regional equality, and number two, to avoid overproduction. That means first reason said that in order to achieve regional equality, so that industries are not concentrated on some specific areas, that is why this licensing policy was introduced. Otherwise, what will happen if the private sector was given all the freedom? They will set up industries mostly in the urban areas. So what will happen? All the industries will be concentrated in the urban areas. So to prevent this, and in order to achieve regional equality, this licensing policy was introduced. And students, if anyone wanted to set up an industry in the backward areas or in the rural areas, they were given concession, they were given some kind of exemption. Okay. And also students, in order to avoid overproduction, so that nothing is produced more than what is required, this licensing policy was introduced, because at that time the resources were very much limited. So the government was, it was very important for the government to be very careful in the use of the resources, so that it does not lead to overproduction. So for these two reasons, this licensing policy was introduced. Okay. So students, another strategy adopted by the government for industrial growth was the promotion of small scale industries. So small scale industries are the ones where the level of investment is done on a very small scale, okay, at a very low scale. So those industries having investment of rupees 1 crore are known as small scale industries. But students, in the year 1950, this investment limit was rupees 5 lakh, but now it has increased up to rupees 1 crore. So students, one committee known as the Village and Small Scale Industries Committee, so that committee was headed by Dattatreya Gopal Karve. So that is why that committee was also known as Karve Committee. So in the year 1955, this Karve Committee recommended that industries, small scale industries, should be promoted in order to have rural development. So students, accordingly, several initiatives were taken by the government for establishing or for promoting small scale industries. So the first initiative was, number one, protecting the small scale industries from the competition of the large scale industries. So students, these small scale industries were protected by the government from facing any kind of competition from the large industries. How? By reserving some products exclusively for the small scale industries. That means some products were exclusively meant to be produced only by the small scale industries. Large industries were not allowed to produce those goods. And then students, another initiative which was taken by the government was the tax which was imposed on the products produced by small scale industries was kept at a very lower limit. That means these small scale industries were made to pay a very lower amount of excise duty to the government. Also students, anyone who wanted to set up a small scale industry, they were provided with bank loans at a much cheaper rate of interest. So these were the initiatives taken by the government to protect and to support the small scale industries. So students, there are several advantages of small scale industries. Number one, it leads to more and more employment generation, since the methods used are labor intensive, isn't it? More labor and less machines are used. And students, it involves very simple skills, then very simple tools are used, so anyone can start a small scale industry. Also student, very little amount of funds or capital can be used to start a small scale industry. And it leads to regional equality. Small scale industries are basically introduced or set up in the rural areas. So what happens, it gives the rural areas an opportunity to grow. So it leads to regional equality. The rural areas or the backward areas also get a chance to grow along with the urban areas. So students, as a result, it leads to rural development. Okay. So students, two very important trade policies were adopted by the government. The first was import substitution and the second was export promotion. Import substitution basically means producing all the goods within the domestic territory of the country, so that the people do not have to import goods from other countries. The main idea is to become self-sufficient. And students, what happened? Regarding this import substitution policy, protection was also given to the domestic industries in the form of tariffs and quotas. And students, another trade policy which was adopted by the government was export promotion. Export promotion means producing more and more goods in the country so that they can be exported, which in turn will lead to more income of the country. It will generate income, it will help the country earn more and more foreign exchange reserves. But students, let me tell you one thing, more than the export promotion policy, import substitution policy was given greater emphasis by the government. And for this, industries, the domestic industries were also protected by using tariffs and quotas. Tariff basically means taxes which are imposed on imports. So tariff discourages people from importing goods from other countries. It makes imports expensive, so that people are discouraged to buy goods from abroad. And students, quota means fixing the maximum quantity of goods that can be imported. That means the government prescribes the maximum limit up to which one can import goods. Beyond that limit, no one is allowed to import any goods from any other country. So this is how the government promoted the policies of import substitution and export promotion. But import substitution was given more importance. Okay. So students, all these policies, import substitution, export promotion, then the promotion of small scale industries, all these policies led to the growth of industrial sector. The proportion of GDP which was contributed by the industrial sector increased from 11.8% in 1950-51 to 24.6% in 1991. That means around 13% growth was there. And students, 6% annual growth of industries was seen at that time. Also students, the industrial sector became well diversified. That means it started producing more and more variety of goods. And students, the promotion of small scale industries helped the people who did not have sufficient funds. It helped the people to become self-sufficient, to develop their own self-employment ventures. And students, protection which was given to the domestic industries helped the indigenous industries to grow, mainly in the areas of electronics and automobile sectors. That means the domestic industries started expanding in the business of automobile and electronics. Also students, it led to the growth of large scale industries in the country, that is Rourkela steel plant and Bhilai steel plant. Rourkela steel plant is located in Orissa and Bhilai steel plant in Chhattisgarh. So this led to the development of large scale industries as well, which brought a paradigm shift in the entire infrastructural system of the country. Okay. But students, the process of industrialization also had various drawbacks. The first drawback was the government was exercising monopoly power over most industries. That means even though it was realized that some industries could be provided by the private sector as well, but the government was not allowing the private sector to provide those industries. For example, hotels, telecommunication, defense, etc. Also students, it was argued that some industries which could be provided by the private sector, the government should move out of those industries, and rather the government should focus on other priority industries, because the resources were already so limited. Then what is the point of providing the industries both by the public and private sector? So this was argued that those industries which could be provided by the private sector, government should move out of those industries. Also students, many public sector industries were running in losses, but then also they were not shut down, because it was very difficult to close one public entity because of the employment that it generates. For example, the state electricity boards was running in huge losses, then also it was continued. Okay, then students, what happened? Since the domestic industries were given protection by the government, they were not doing anything to improve the quality of their products, because they knew that they were getting a captivating market, so they had no incentive of bringing any kind of improvement in their production techniques. They were not making any changes in the product quality, so the quality of the product was deteriorating day by day. And students, since the government was exercising monopoly power in most of the industries, the government started charging higher and higher prices for the goods which were produced in those industries, and it became very difficult for the people to afford those goods. And students, since I have already told you that more focus was given on import substitution than on export promotion, so this led to a situation where the foreign exchange reserves of the country started shrinking, and it reduced drastically, and by the end of 1990 the stocks of foreign currency reserves reached their lowest level. So students, even though various strategies were adopted, the government could not ensure the growth of the industrial sector in a proper way because of all these drawbacks. All right, so students, this is all about these topic, that is industries and trade. Today we have discussed about the industrial sector, the various reforms which were introduced in the industrial sector, the industrial policy resolution, then the industrial licensing policies, then the promotion of small scale industries, how all these things led to the growth of industries, and the drawbacks associated with the process of industrialization. So students, this brings us to the end of this chapter. In the next class, that means in the next week, in the coming Tuesday, we will be starting with the chapter liberalization, privatization and globalization. So students, in case you have any doubt with this particular chapter, do let me know. Okay, thank you, take care and stay safe.